Did the little button come up? It did. All right. Hello, everybody. Tonight we're here with Sasha Aronzon. She is the Chief Brand Officer and co-founder of SelfCare is for Everyone, which is an online community whose mission is to normalize conversations about mental health and spread self-care reminders with others. She actually got her master's in higher education counseling from Westchester, so she's an alum. We're so excited to have her back. Justin, Chloe, and I actually all worked with Sasha when she was here, and we love her, so we're so excited that you're all going to be able to talk to her this evening. So when she was in grad school, she did research on how social media impacts users' mental health. And so the goal of SelfCare is for Everyone is to create a supportive online community of healing where conversations about mental health are safe, because there aren't a ton of spaces out there right now where it feels safe to do that online. So Sasha, we're going to jump right into some questions. So if the students and anyone else on the call wants to write their questions in the chat, we'll hit those up as soon as I'm done, giving a little intro, seeing how Sasha's doing. So go ahead, anything you have, and then we'll call on you to ask her. So,
Sasha also went to school with Chloe.
High school together. Yes.
I did not know that. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's so good to have you back, Sasha.
Thank you. Good to be back virtually.
Awesome. So obviously your research in grad school and kind of some of your passions are around mental health. So can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to create SelfCare is for Everyone?
Yeah, sure. I would say since high school, I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship and self-development, motivational speakers, and I always found myself researching people who created their own lives. And so early on, I had a bow business in college where I sold bows to sorority women. So I always had some interest in entrepreneurship and creating a life that with your passion. And so when it was my first year in grad school, I met my now fiance, but at the time we were just dating. And from our first date, we started talking about entrepreneurs that we're both interested in and businesses. And he had already had a business for 6 years or 5 years before he had met me. So he was printing t-shirts and sweatshirts beforehand. And so when we had started dating and 6 months, maybe 3 months into our relationship, we had this idea of okay, I'm going to be graduating from grad school in about 2 years, and I'll have to either get a job, or if we're able to create our own business, then we can have our own business after I graduate. And so we kind of had that countdown going where we were let's create something that we're both extremely passionate about and that we want to see in this world. And we also both are super big psych nerds. We love talking about psychology, Myers-Briggs. In fact, one of the things that connected us on our first date was we were the perfect compatibility of the Myers-Briggs. So we had talked about that on the first date. So just throughout our relationship, we both had a big passion of creating something bigger than ourselves. And that's kind of where SelfCare is for Everyone. The majority of the passion comes from. It's from the two of us and his brother, who also works on the project with us. But the two of us really knowing that this is our mission in life at the moment, and we are here to create something bigger than ourselves.
I love that. That's beautiful. And honestly, awesome. It blew up so quickly.
It did.
I mean, you started an Instagram page. Now you have a website. I myself am rocking some SelfCare for Everyone gear.
Yeah. Quick plug for those who are
really
watching.
Just happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So how did you adjust? And did you start while you were still in grad school, or did that kind of flow after you had graduated?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because I would say the fact that it happened so fast, I certainly felt a lot of imposter syndrome throughout the whole time, because people were reaching out to me as the co-founder or chief brand officer of SelfCare is for Everyone, this Instagram, but I was just me, and I was to them it felt like more of a big deal, but to me, I had insecurities of I'm just in grad school, I'm not an expert, I had to grow through. And I feel like it took me up until like really recently to really own this title and to really own that this is a business that we started together and that it's okay to be in this leadership role. And so I kind of hid behind the account for a while because I would share on this Instagram account and I would message so many people, but I didn't have to necessarily reveal who I was. And it was like a safety net. And then this quarantine thing happened. And it felt like a calling. I don't even know how to explain it other than like the month before I was at a meditation retreat. And then this quarantine happened. And I felt like throughout the meditation retreat, I was really working on insecurities. And again, that imposter syndrome that still kept creeping up. And then once the quarantine happened, we decided we were going to go live on our Instagram account. And so that meant that I had to go live because I was kind of like the face behind the account. And it was one of those moments where you could either step into the fear or continue leaning into that resistance of hiding behind this account, of hiding behind this title that, like, who cares who I am? It's not about me. It's about the mission that we're trying to serve. But at the same time, it was my job to go live on this account. And so most recently, I would say, I've been really stepping into the fear of owning this title, of owning who I want to be and what this mission is about.
Awesome. So that's so funny. I actually had a question that I had thought about earlier today. So I know you run like the website and social media, but I was going to ask how like being in quarantine and our current global situation has kind of changed your day to day. So obviously kind of going live and being more of an active face of self-care is for everyone has definitely changed. Are there any other ways that things have kind of like, looked differently for you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like, to be honest, if this is probably the most important time for us to step up as an organization and as a company, because it is causing so much anxiety and mental health issues and stress for people. And if our brand is here to remind everyone that they should self-care, and now everyone is stuck at home. And for the first time ever, most people have the opportunity to start practicing self-care. Well, we as a brand have to step up. And so we've been creating online resources for people who are staying home to keep them busy. We've been adding more articles to our blog so that people, when they go to our website, we're not just a t-shirt, sweatshirt company. We also have an active blog that people can read while they are stuck at home and don't know what to do. So, ooh, Marian, so exciting. I'm sorry, I'm totally stopping, but hi, Marian. Yeah, so it really has changed the momentum of our day-to-day. And I feel like that calling that I felt early on when this quarantine started, it's really been driving us this past month in creating more resources, creating more free content for people to download.
Yeah. And speaking of that content, Sasha was kind enough to share that with me. So I'm going to be sending it out to anybody who is here today. So I'm super excited about that. And thank you so much for your generosity in sharing that with us.
So what are some of these social media handles? Like some people are like, whoa, what is this? SelfCareEveryone.com. Like, so if I was to find you on IG, Facebook, like what am I looking at here?
You mean our handles?
Yeah.
So on Instagram, we are SelfCare is for Everyone. On TikTok, we are also SelfCare is for Everyone. TikTok, y'all, don't sleep on TikTok. Facebook, we are SelfCare Station, which is like the name of our website, whereas SelfCare is for Everyone is like the extension, which is our Instagram and where our community lives under. So there are two names there to remember: SelfCare Station and SelfCare is for Everyone. Yeah.
I would love to turn it over to people to ask some questions. So what are you curious about, either about Sasha kind of personally or about the brand Self-Care is for Everyone, kind of their message? So I see Sean has a question. So Sean, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Sasha, that would be fabulous.
So if I'm interested in buying a piece of clothing and want to buy it for a family member overseas, like Ireland, as you know, my family's from, how do I go about it, and will it have to go through customs?
Oh, So good question. We do ship internationally. And so you would place the order regularly, like to ship to any space, and you can fill out so that it ships to Ireland. But if you want to use the promo code YouAreLoved15, you would get 15% off. So
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
You got it. You got it.
So I love the fact that you turned this idea that is wonderful, by the way, and much needed right now, because obviously we need spaces where people can feel comfortable to be able to have these dialogues. But you turned this idea and it just blew up. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what are some of the fun and like mind-blowing experiences that you've had since you've developed this? Like, what places has this taken you to where you're like, I did not know this was going to be a thing? Or like, what doors has this opened for you? Like, that's what I want to know. Tell us all about those things.
Oh man, probably the most like heightened experience that I had was last year when I was still in grad school at Westchester, and Ariana Grande had followed us on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so once someone follows you like her, you're now able to message that individual, because she's very private in the sense that you can't really reach out to her unless she follows you. And so I knew she had a concert in Philly that night, so I had messaged her, just so you know, if you need self-care reminders, we'd be happy to drop them off for you and your friends. And so she had messaged us back, and we had a back and forth conversation. And she sent us tickets to come to her show. So that was, yeah. And so that was probably the craziest moment so far, but I have one of my biggest moments coming up, which I'm super excited about. And I'll be going live with Mel Robbins, if you've heard of Mel Robbins.
Oh, yes.
She's one of my biggest like role models, and
that is phenomenal.
She's a boss woman, and
yes.
I can't wait to interview her.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that, and that's on Friday. So that's a big moment.
Congrats. Congrats, Sasha. Not only can you ask questions in the Zoom, we know that people are watching us live stream on Facebook. We're currently at 20 people. So if you have any questions, please post your questions onto the Facebook Live. We will see them. We will ask Sasha them directly. So
yeah.
Can I just give a shout out to Sasha? I miss you. I'm so happy to see your face. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. So when I heard you were going to be on, I was like, oh my God, I've got to be on with Sasha. So where are you in the world right now?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys travel outside of the country?
We were supposed to go to Asia, but our plans got canceled. Yeah, once all of this happened, there was no way to go to Asia.
Smart. I'm glad you guys are close. That's good. I'm happy. I'm like, oh no, Sasha, I need for her to be safe.
Thank you for thinking of me. No, we didn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Chloe had a hand raised.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. I was just saying for next.
So yes, Sasha, I miss you dearly. I had a question for you, because I know when we were connecting right before you graduated, you wanted to take some time away from school, away from college in the field, and do a lot of travel. So I wanted you to talk about like some of your favorite travel experiences that you've had being away from Westchester.
Sure. So once I graduated, my partner and I went on a 3.5-month road trip to California. Oh, look at your puppy. And so we brought all the belongings we had. I got rid of like all of my clothes except for my t-shirt, my SelfCare is for Everyone t-shirts, leggings, because they didn't take up a lot of space, and sweatshirts. And we just put everything in the car. And we drove up through Canada and then down Michigan and into the West Coast. And my favorite places, I would say my favorite place was Utah. We did hikes at every national park that we like drove past. So that was a lot of fun. Got to camp a lot. We brought a tent with us, so we would pitch a tent whenever we needed to stay somewhere. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to have to like figure it out on the road with just whatever you had and each other. And it was a lot of together time. So you have to really communicate well.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
What other questions do you all have for Sasha? Any other things you're curious about?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marian.
Yeah.
Sasha, I know you are really great at feeding yourself nutritiously.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious as to, you were traveling a lot. It's not like you had to run into your own kitchen and pantry and all of that. And so how did you manage, finding healthy foods? And like, what are some of the favorite snacks, recipes that you can kind of pass along, and are they posted on a website that we can kind of look at? And, just kind of, because I remember you just always ate so well. And so, yeah, all of that.
We ate a lot of bags of salad. So we would like go to the grocery store for each day, and we would get what we needed for that day, because we didn't have a refrigeration system. We had a cooler, but it didn't always work for days at a time. So we would have like bags of salad, yogurts, nuts, seeds. I know one time we made chia pudding with we would buy almond milk in a box. Cereal, we would have bars on the road. Yeah, just stuff that you could take with you. It wasn't easy. A lot of the times, like, you had to go to like Dunkin' Donuts and we would get like egg wraps or just something on the go. So some days you ate whatever you had, but for the most part, we would get like bagged salads and stuff you could take to go for the day. And we would go to the grocery store every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people during this quarantine have had a lot of time to reflect. There's not too much else to do. So you have a lot of time you're spending kind of by yourself. And I know too, with the work that you do, there's a lot of self-reflection and you're learning every day. So like, what's something new that you've learned about yourself in this quarantine?
And something new that I've learned about myself. I would say I've been learning about my abilities more like throughout this quarantine, because again, I had to go live on this account, so it wasn't like I had a way to hide behind it. So I had to just step into that, and I was like, oh, I'm capable of interviewing someone in front of an audience. I was fine, like learning that if there's 12 hours in the day, how many hours can I spend to help this community during this difficult time? So my capabilities in helping people virtually, digitally, creating these products that people can access in their home. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a question from Tori. So Tori, if you want to unmute yourself.
Sure.
Hi. I was wondering if you had any recommendations for self-care activities to do with family members. My cousin and I, we've been doing a lot of cooking together, and I went for a bike ride with my mom today, but it's getting a little repetitive.
Yeah. I love that question, because sometimes you, especially during quarantine, you will have to take care of yourself with other family members. And I would say like maybe even trying a hobby together that's new for both of you, or whoever it is that you're practicing self-care with. I don't know if you meditate, but I would say meditating together feels less scary than having to be in a room by yourself, just sitting in quiet, or, maybe taking on these new activities together and saying, all right, we're going to be in this together and we're going to try new self-care ideas. So I sent Leah a coloring book and a way to like create your schedule, a structure in your day. So she'll be sending out that coloring book. So if you wanted to print that coloring book out, and then the two of you, whoever it is that you guys want to color together, that's a really fun self-care activity. And I would say like changing up your scenery, like changing rooms that you're spending time in with other people, so that it doesn't feel like we keep spending time in this one space, or like going for walks or going outside to change your scenery. I'd say that.
So Sasha, we're talking a lot about what people are learning, and I think that this COVID-19 thing is really making a lot of people learn things about themselves.
Yeah.
I think prior to this, people were like, oh, people that suffer from anxiety, like they just need to suck it up, or people who aren't taking care of themselves, they they could just pull themselves together. But I think a lot of people are learning things about themselves. Like what do you think COVID-19 has exposed about self-care?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's exposed a lot of people to their own minds. People are stuck in their home with all of their thoughts, and they no longer have like a place to bounce it off at. So let's say you go to work every day, your coworkers are keeping you distracted, you're having other things going on, and all of a sudden now you're stuck at home with your mind and your anxiety, and you're starting to actually feel the effects, and you have not a lot of outlets to release it. So I feel like this time during COVID-19, a lot of people are either struggling with their mental health even more because they're going to grocery stores and they're seeing empty shelves, and that's kind of getting them into that scarce mindset of what if there's not enough food for me or like for anyone. And so I think people are being affected by it in this way. But what I will say is that I've noticed a lot of people are starting to practice more self-care. There are online people working out more. People have this time. They no longer have the excuse of, I don't have time to self-care. And so I think it's actually become a big reality check for a lot of people. And people who are looking to self-care, the resources are out there. You can look up online how to practice self-care. Like there are ways to begin this journey. And I think anyone who is struggling with their mind and feeling stuck in this space, you're not alone. A lot of people are struggling with their mind right now because, like I said, they might even be in a toxic environment. And that's really tough. Like, how do you navigate feeling safe at home when you're in a toxic environment? And so I would say creating a sacred space for yourself, if that does happen where you're in a toxic environment. And that could include lighting some candles, lighting an incense, having crystals if you own crystals, making a little photo of someone who empowers you and putting it in that space, and really creating that space for yourself, and keeping it safe so that that boundary is up there and that people who are toxic in your home or just the toxic news doesn't get to you, and that you have a sacred space for yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, another one of my questions would be, how does one, and this sounds very basic, but I'm talking about, let's talk about self-care for someone who's never thought about this concept before.
Yeah.
How does one go about finding what self-care method is best for them? Because I know what helps you with self-care is probably different from me, probably different from Chloe, probably different from Leah. So like, how does one go about discovering what works best for them? And how do they know if that's the right one?
That's a really good question too, Justin. I would say the first thing I would say is developing a relationship with yourself requires you to check in with yourself and to have like this self-dialogue that's no longer an inner critic or a mean dialogue. It's just a dialogue that you would have with your friend. So asking yourself, Sasha, how are you feeling today? What is something that you need? Once you have that dialogue and you start to begin to form that relationship, your body will know certain things that you need. If you need to be social, if you need to be spending time alone. So as far as needs go, I would say start with checking in with yourself. And then I would say, if you're like, okay, I'm interested in exploring self-care, I would say start with 1-minute self-care ideas. So making a list of things that you can do for 1 minute that are self-care. You can do jumping jacks for a minute. You can get a glass of water and drink it. That's self-care. You can journal for 1 minute every single day. And so trying things out for 1 minute feels a little bit less scary than committing to a workout class that's now your self-care routine. So just having these 1 minute micro bursts of self-care to see what works best for you. And I would say trying it at week increments at a time. So let's say you're like, okay, I want to see what journaling is about. I want to see if I could get into journaling. I would say journal for 1 minute every single day. And at the end of the week, check in with yourself and say, did that serve me? Did that make me feel good? Do I feel like that self-care habit should stay in my life? If you're saying, yes, it served you, it should stay in your life, the next week, add in one more activity that's a self-care activity that takes you, again, 1 minute. So you're building these 1 minute habits all along. And that second week, maybe your 1 minute habit is to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning to wake you up. And you try that for a week. Every single day you wake up, you get the glass of water, you drink it, then you journal for a minute, and you ask yourself, did that glass of water serve me? Was that necessary? And then again, so it's a continuous checking in with yourself and building that relationship with who you are, building a relationship with yourself, and knowing that your body knows what you need and you can trust, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I would want to know too, I mean, because COVID just happened so quickly, even though we knew that it was coming, or we knew that we had to prepare for this. A lot of people were caught unprepared. And now people are in this state where they can't escape their realities, they can't escape their houses, and now they're trying to quickly find self-care tips. So what would be like your 5 super go-to, like very easy, you can do them right now from your seat? What are your like 5 self-care, do this now, go for it?
Breathing is number 1. So throughout our day, we just don't engage in deep breathing at all. Most of our breath is pretty shallow, and it doesn't really serve us because the oxygen in our body doesn't flow through our body. It just, it slows down all of our organs. And so if you can set aside, again, 60 seconds to 5 minutes, whatever you have in your day, just breathe. Take those, put on some nice music if that helps you, and breathe to the music and really connect to your breath and connect to yourself. That's number 1. Number 2, I would say creating like a routine for yourself, or like something that works for you, whether it is trying out those 1 minute self-care habits and seeing what works for you. Because once you're in a routine, you no longer have to question, you don't have to question as many things. You just go into your routine and you do it. The third thing I would say is having a space for yourself, a space that's sacred. And we talked about that earlier, of how to create a little sacred space for yourself. The other thing is, I would say, stay connected so you don't feel so alone. Reach out to whoever you haven't spoken to in a while, or maybe make a list of people who you want to connect with more in your life, and then people who are toxic and you want to connect with less in your life. And just, knowing you have the ability to control who you spend time communicating with, the content you consume, like whether you're watching the news. I would say my 5th one, just because this is so, the quarantine is causing a lot of people to watch the news anxiously, I would say watch minimal news. Get the updates that you need to keep yourself safe, of like what you need to do, including washing your hands and staying home. But after that, I would say just keep on doing the stuff to keep yourself safe, but don't keep watching the news, because it will impact your mental health passively. So even if you're just watching, your mental health will be impacted, because they're talking about deaths and they're talking about really serious topics. And it's only makes sense that your mind is going into survival mode and getting anxious about staying alive.
Yes. Okay, so my last question for the group. So Sasha, what happens if you recognize that someone that you care for and that you love is in some serious need of self-care? What's the best way to go to them and say, hey, I think you're lacking in this, or, this may improve your overall living? Like, how do you identify it, and how do you kindly tell somebody that this is something that they may want to invest more of their time in? Because I think that's a conversation that a lot of us need to have with each other, so that it is formalized, like, hey, like, it's called self-care for a reason.
Right.
It's about the self. But a lot of us have people that we love, and we identify them as part of ourselves. So we want to love them as much as we love ourselves. Everybody shows love in the way that they want to be loved. So what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would say the same way you check in with yourself, you check in with your friends, and you just ask, hey, how are you doing? What have you been doing to take care of yourself? You can make it an open-ended question, like, I've been doing this to take care of myself. What have you been doing? And again, sharing like easy tips with your friend. If it sounds like they are getting burnt out, or it sounds like they're tired, you can share what you've been doing to practice self-care. Or maybe if you learned something about self-care, sharing with them what you learned, because you don't have to do this alone. And so if you notice your friend is burnt out, or your friend isn't practicing some self-care, maybe they don't know how to implement it into their life, I would say as a friend, just check in with them the same way you check in with yourself. You check check in with your friends and you check in with those who you love and those who are around you.
Got it. This was great. Sasha, plug your social media handles again for those who may have tuned in and may have missed it, so they can follow you and get all the updates that you will be sharing throughout not only COVID-19, but for the rest of the year.
Certainly. You can find us at SelfCare is for Everyone.
Great. Sasha, thank you so much. Again, this program was brought to you by the Office of Residence Life and Housing Services. We will be having some cool programs coming on in the next 3 weeks. So we actually want to shout out some of them. Tomorrow, we're going to be cooking. So if you like cooking, you're definitely not going to want to miss tomorrow. Who we're going to be with, Leah? What's her name?
I'm going to butcher the pronunciation.
I'm going to too. That's why I was hoping that you would do it.
Tregaye.
I think it's Tregaye Fraser.
Yes.
She is the first African-American woman to win the Food Network star. She is from the Food Network. She has her own show. She is going to be most likely cooking from her home kitchen tomorrow as the studio got shut down. So she is trying to frantically find a kitchen so that she can cook. She's going to tell us a little bit about her story, and that she's going to show some awesome cooking things that you could be doing at home. On Thursday, we got a double header. We have Jackie Cruz from Orange is the New Black, and we have Craig Robinson from The Office. And then I'm going to give it over to Leah, who's going to give us our Friday lineup.
Yeah, so Friday, we have Tim Paulson, surprise, same last name as me. He is my brother. So he is a CrossFit athlete and business owner, lives in New York. And then we have DJ Truck, who will be spinning for an hour for free for students. So hopefully you all will tune in for the rest of this week and look for our ads for next week and the following week for some of our speakers. And we're super excited to bring these to you.
Yes, please follow us on our Res Life pages so you can stay updated. These next 2 weeks are going to have some heavy hitters and you do not want to miss it. So from all of us at Residence Life, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the future. And again, Sasha, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. I miss you.
Thank you. I miss you all.
Bye.
So good to see everyone.